You're good. Yep, go ahead.
So bow with me as I pray. Father, we thank you for this year we have just recently concluded. All of your blessings of so many kinds, of health, guidance, of finances, of peace, of healing, so many ways in which you have blessed us. That is what you do. And we are people who are grateful for that. I ask your blessings on these meetings this week and next week, that you might give us guidance, that you might provide us wisdom as we go through these meetings. And I pray, Father, that as these days unfold, we might receive what you provide, we might be responsive to that guidance, might be obedient children. As different people speak today, Micah preaches, people speak next week, and as I begin a new series, Father, I pray you might provide all that we need to be those same obedient children. And what we do might be pleasing in your sight. And I ask this, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. You've got a handout, at least I hope you do. First of all, thank you for being here and being on time. I'm going to try to create an environment this year that we start on time. And we start on time in the adult Bible study so that we can be getting the best out of what different people present. Tom Sr. will start in just a minute. He'll present the budget. That'll probably take up most of the time, or much of the time this morning. When he's done, Teresa will talk about the church calendar. There'll be a handout of the church calendar. If you don't have time for that, he'll pick that up next week. The intent today is to provide you with that ministry information and an opportunity for you today and next week to make comments and suggestions. I want to remind you of what a budget is. It can look like, in fact it is, a piece of paper with a lot of numbers. And it can be pretty confusing sometimes. But I want to remind you that a budget is an important document, both as it talks about what has happened and as it talks about what's going to happen. Because it represents, whether it's a household budget or a personal budget that you have, or a business or a church budget, it is reflecting what the individual or the family or the organization of the church says, this is our priority. And it's following the principle of where your money is, there will your heart be also. Yes. And so we are reflecting in this budget with an eye to what God would have, with an eye to what God would have us. So with that,
the girls that do all the work on the knitting and crocheting and everything else. So these are the ones that haven't heard this yet. I want to talk about some changes that Craig is going to talk to you about, how the infrastructure budget part is going to affect our total budget too. So, but if you look at starting down on column E as we work our way down, I want to start picking it up. So if you look at line 9, it said the budget went from $3,200 up to $113,000. Greg will explain what's happening there. And the same way with line 12 on landscaping, we've got some changes it's making there. But then line 19, we reduced the budget from 500 a year down to 150. On line 23, Sunday lunch, from $1,500 down to $1,000. We've added a transportation, line 25, to 600. Decorations, we lowered from 600 to 300. Gifts, we lowered from 800 to 400. Special events from 1,700 to 1,200. We've been cutting down, as you can see, on these budget items. Skipping down to line 36, submissions instead of 3,600 is down to 1,800. Skipping down to line 49, you thought of it before was going to be only 9,000, but it turns out insurance is going to be $12,000 a year. In line 52, we've lowered from 1,600 down to 1,200 on office supplies. 53, we're anticipating a savings on PG&E, which Craig will explain a little bit later. And the telephone internet is just, the run rate's probably going to be just 2,000 instead of 2,300 we had figured it before. Line 56, payroll tax is down. Turns out it's a little less than what we calculated before. And Pastor has been very generous in taking a decrease in pay there from 60,000 down to 54,000. And the security staff is down from 16,000 down to 10,000. So we've got a lot of things in terms of reducing the average run rate we've had in expenses so far. And these have been met with the people that also were in charge of those things, that Dave you talked about, and also Teresa knows too, was part of that discussion. So we can talk about, from your perspective right now, if there were any changes that you are concerned about with those decreases that we made in. I know women's ministry has a lot of it down there, but Teresa will answer any questions about that you might have. She smiles, nobody's there to ask her anything. So anyway, that's a percentage of budget, and Dave, you already here, we just went through, I showed first of all what all the decreases were in our normal expenses for the, this year compared to last year. The biggest changes are taking place in this year in terms of all our infrastructure spending. And I really like Craig to be able to talk about that because he's come up with all these, the column G and column H over there, those items and how they're affecting the budget.
Are you ready for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, first of all, we're gonna start with, column D and E on line 3. And you'll see that, we went from 157,000 that we projected last year to 132,000 this year, and that's because we lost one of our large donors. That was the reason we had to make some of these cuts that we did. So I wanted to make that very clear. Now, if you go again back down to line 9, you'll see that it's $113,700. That'll include what is on column H there for line 5, 7, and 9. So the $7,500, the $100,000, and the $5,000 is included in our maintenance this year, along with his normal maintenance cost of, I think, $2,400 is what we lowered it to. On line 5H, you'll see that it says $7,500, even though we paid $15,000 for the windows, $7,500 was paid last year. So we're not including that in this year's budget. Over on line 12, you'll see it went from $6,000 to $5,500 for the landscaping. We are, I hate to use the word, but we're gonna fire our landscaper and we're gonna buy equipment. Now this year it only saves us about $500, but it'll save us $6,000 a year after that. And we already have people set up to run that whole process. Okay. And I think that's it. We're going to be transferring, it won't be in one shot, but we're going to be transferring from our Axos account.
Now define what the Axos account is.
Axos is when Micah and Jennifer gave us that large donation. We put that in the savings account, Axos, and it pays us 3.8% interest per month. Right now, that's equaling $500 a month in interest that we're getting. So we are going to, between now and June, taking out $115,000 of that, leaving $35,000 in to continue. So just with that, we're going to gain about $6,000 or about $3,000 in interest in that time as we're taking things out. So the whole $115,000 will go out. but it's not gonna be in one quick shot. We'll be taking out the $5,000 for the equipment pretty quickly, so we can get that started and start saving there. And then we've already paid the other $7,500 this month we'll be taking that amount out too. As we go forward, what we're going to be doing, because we will have a good savings account that's locked into a checking account through Axos, we're gonna keep no more than 1 extra month's worth of payments in our account. Everything else will go into the Axos. The months that we're short, so if we're spending $13,000 a month and we only get 9, we will pull $4,000 out. If we get 17, we will put $3,000 in. So we're gonna always keep our account 1 month ahead of what our bills are. And then whatever else, we'll leave in that access, because even if we get down to the $35,000 we're gonna leave in there, that's over $100 a month in interest, which helps us.
It's over how much?
That'd be over $100 a month in interest. Any questions?
There's a couple of other things to explain.
Okay.
We're going to get rid of the fluorescent lights, and we're buying LED fixtures that Richard and others will be replacing gradually. We own all of the LED lighting now to do that.
No, we don't.
It hasn't come in?
We ordered windows, we haven't ordered the lighting yet.
Oh, okay.
We have to wait for the lighting and the roof and the landscaping equipment. We have to wait for approval from the congregation to spend that money.
Okay, I misspoke. We have the windows. Richard and others will be putting them in gradually as they have time, given their other duties. The same thing will occur when we buy the lights. They will be put in gradually, not all one big workday weekend. So the money that you see in those columns H, that will be spent over a period of time.
Right.
That will not come out of giving. It will come out of the Axos account. So do me a favor, let's show the bank accounts there, right? Wells,
And not all of them have been open yet. Wells, we're still waiting on the access checking account. But we will have Axos savings.
well, Craig, do me a favor, write it differently. Wells is the first account that our giving goes.
Oh, you want to do it in order
I
of how?
want to do it in the order that the money flows. So when Dave gets the deposit, he deposits the full amount into the Wells Fargo account, and then draw an arrow.
Okay, Wells Fargo, then Axos checking. And this will go directly into here, and then we have Axos savings. And this will go into here or into here, depending on what our need is.
Now, write the Chase account.
The Chase, okay.
So where is the monthly residual reserve going to be kept?
In the Access?
Yes, but it's in the checking account, isn't it?
Yes. The reserve that we want to keep in the checking account is, and I don't know what our number is, you probably know better than I, what we spend each month. But if we take over the whole year, what we spend, minus the large purchases we're doing, we will divide that by 12. That is what our average should be on our expenses. That we will always keep 1 month worth in here.
And Tom, what is the average expense monthly?
Well, yeah, it's once a month. Normally I had set up a reserve fund of $15,000 a month to maintain it. And that's kind of like where we, last year where we came.
So there will be $15,000 intended to be kept in this account. And it's a checking account, so we can have that as a reserve. So if we only get $9,000 one month, we've got enough to take out of that account to handle payment.
Kind of, yeah, because what we will keep in there at the beginning of the month, we'll have 30,000 in there. That's that month's worth of expenses, plus one more month. So anything over that, plus goes into here, anything minus comes from here, yeah, over there. Now, the credit card, I'm actually gonna talk to both Mike and Jennifer about changing how we do the credit card. And the reason being is because we are in January now, we're buying stuff in January, but it doesn't get paid until February. So we have to wait for Jennifer to not only get the bill and pay it, but then she has to break down the different categories of what they're from. So I'm gonna talk to her about doing it a little differently. So literally I could take the statement and know the card 4002 is used for Sunday lunch or whatever it might be, online orders, and make it to where we're using them for, so we're not having to go line item for each card and figure out which one is, 402 will be set up for one specific use.
So,
The only one that might be different is yours, Pastor Scott, because you do multiple different things.
yeah, so Tom, look at line item 63 in column E. At $270,570 includes the money from the section over on the right.
Well,
So,
kind of. It actually includes the section on line 6, column E, the 115,000.
yeah, so the actual budget for real comparison, Tom, would you do the subtraction there and tell us what the actual comparison would be with the 180 from last year?
I think that let's see, do I have that sheet? But the original budget we had on that was gonna be like $138,000, I believe.
So if we take 116,300 from 270, that's really the spending budget for the operation of the church.
Correct.
It doesn't include the money that we're spending out of the gift.
Right.
And what is that amount? Can you run that number, Tom, or can you run it, Craig?
Okay, that would be $155,570.
Say it again, 155,
Yeah,
and what's the other's 155, how much?
570.
So in reality, other than the money on infrastructure, our budget for line 63 in comparison, last year it was 180. We've actually cut about 24.5 out of our spending this year. Is that correct, Tom? Okay, so that's a huge change in our budget.
Those are the line items that I mentioned at the beginning there, that we changed, if you notice them on your cross. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 10 or 12 different line items that we reduced down from what we paid last year, what we budgeted.
Yeah, and the other thing with our infrastructure spending plan, we went with a generalized number. The $100,000 for roofing includes the possibility of extra $10,000 to replace sheeting if need be, or any increase that they might have. The $5,000 landscaping equipment, we're probably gonna be spending about $4,600 to $4,700 on. And then the church lighting, I went through Home Depot and found out what lighting costs, which came out to $3,800. Actually, Richard says he thinks he can get them for about half that price, but if he can't, I don't wanna have to go back to the congregations that we're wrong about that. So we may actually have less spending out of that infrastructure than we're expecting.
So to get your piece of paper accurate, on line 63 out to the right, if you want to pencil it in, it's 155,570. Now, if you look at line 45, column E, that number is 31,500. So the measurement that we often want to look at is what percentage of our budget is actually going to missionaries. Our goal is to get it 20% or above. This year, based on a budget of 155,570, if we do keep that number at 31.5, Dave, we're 20.2%. So we're hitting our goal on that budget. So if you look then down the line, we've got by department, line 16, we are changing and lowering budget by department, as you can see down the list, several places, but we're reducing the budget by $24,000, a little over $24,000, with sacrifice in several different areas, which is what we need to do when we get to this kind of situation. And as we've done this in the past, God has provided what we have needed to do. But you can see that our budget remains focused on the things that we believe are priorities, the things that God would have us do. So we will next week have another meeting during the ABS to talk about other ministry opportunities. And after the service next week, then we will make the votes that we need to make to comply with our bylaws. And budget will be one of the things that we will vote to approve as it's being presented, or there may be an opportunity to make changes in that meeting after the service. Chris, there's an outline there and there's a budget fix as well.
Also, sometime late June or early July, the budget committee is gonna get back together to see how we're doing, to see if maybe, we can maybe bump his salary back up to where it should be, or maybe we might have to do a little work cut.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions on the budget itself?
Well, I mentioned on line 53 where we showed a decrease, that's because of the lighting that we're getting in. Particularly the LEDs are gonna save us that much money off of the PG&E bill for the year.
Yeah,
Even though it won't be in all year, we'll still receive some sort of savings.
Right, and the LEDs, they use 50 to 75% less energy than our lights that we have now.
Yeah,
Okay,
plus the life of them is a lot longer than these tube lights too. so-
Right.
all right, here's Teresa.
Yeah. Forgive me today, guys, my house is in disarray because we're tearing up a bedroom and I'm a little lost this morning, so. But I'm here. So, as far as the cuts that are coming into the women's ministry budget, we pretty much have discussed this and think that we can work around it with no problem. We took a big cut in Ina's decorations, but she has bought in the last couple of years quite a few things, plus the things we received from Seattle, that the Stetsons brought down in decorations and stuff. Sunday lunches, we're hoping to get on a program with Lisa Kasich to help with protein, which would make a big difference in the amount that we have to spend for our Sunday lunches.
And
So
Lisa
we're-
Kasich is MAC, New McCarran.
Yeah.
It's not Lisa Kasich, it's Lisa representing MAC.
Right, she's the one we have to deal with. Don't let that scare you that we're not gonna be able to do the things that we normally do with taking care of the church. I think we're gonna be absolutely fine. We've been through this where the budget was tight before, we just tighten our belts, find different ways around doing it. So don't let any of those cuts frighten you, because I think we're gonna be absolutely fine. God tends to make sure that we need everything, have everything we need. The Women's Ministry Board members, as it stands right now, are myself, Diane Everhart, Shirley Pettit, Jennifer Stetson, Lori Gregg, Ina McLaughlin, Colleen Camp, Sheena Officer, and Suzette Olson. We exist as servant leaders to edify, serve, and educate the church body here at Bridgeway Community Church. We strive to bring the body of believers here together to bond and to grow in our love of Jesus and each other. We meet monthly, usually on the first Sunday of the month after church. Our meetings are usually open and anyone is welcome to attend who is interested. Our responsibilities include decorations, Sunday lunches, Samaritan's Purse, shoe boxes, kitchen and pantry maintenance, communion preparation, prayer chain, yard beautification, church calendar, special events. If anyone is interested in helping with any of these things, if anyone is interested in helping with any of these things, please speak to one of our board members or drop in at one of our meetings. We'd be glad to have all the help we can get. I have an unofficial 2026 calendar. I don't have it in print yet. Hopefully by next week I'll have it done. Like I said, my house is in chaos at the moment, and the printer and I were not getting along. So in January, we'll have our congregational meeting next Sunday on the 25th. That will be a pizza lunch. In February, on the 7th, we're planning a wedding shower for Elisa and David. On Sunday the 22nd, it'll be Diane's farewell Sunday lunch. She'll be leaving us the 1st of March to go to New York to live with her family. In March, I don't have the date, but we're planning to do an open cook-off where you can be as creative as you want and bring desserts. And we'll decide which one we thought was the best out of all of them. It'll be an open cook-off. In April, we'll have our Western Chili Cook-Off on the 26th. We'll have Easter brunch on the 5th. Hopefully, in the end of May or very beginning of June, Pastor will be able to arrange with Randy to have our church picnic out at Rustic Rose again this year. On May the 10th is Mother's Day. On June the 21st, we have Father's Day. Sometime in July, we hope to set up and do our variety show again and maybe get some more participants this year. October, we'll have Pastor's Appreciation Sunday. In November, we'll have our holiday lunch, and New Year's Eve, we'll have a game night. It was very successful the last couple of years, so we hope to do it again. Does anybody have any questions for me?
How are you doing about getting the cleanup crews for lunch organized?
We could still use a few more people, but we are seeing people willing to get on the cruise, so we're.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Shane today about maybe him and his wife doing 1 week.
Oh, that would be.
That would be nice for him.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we also, or you guys also, cut the amount that Suzette is gonna have too, that'll save us money,
Right.
$250 from 500.
Yeah.
And she uses her money that she gets from our raffles, that is gonna help supplement it.
Yeah, for the welcome baskets and the. Yeah. All right. Turn
Teresa,
back
thank
over.
you very much.
Dave, I'm going to try to find Mike. I think he's working on copies. Why don't you do missions report now?
Sure.
No, it's installing the program. Okay, well, as you can see, our missions budget has decreased just a little bit, but it's still one of the largest items outside of staff on the budget, so we have a couple of things that are going on. And I'm just gonna start by missionary. It's in your budget, so you'll see the names of the missionaries on your budget. I'm gonna start at line 32. and that is, Tim and Barbara, my brother and sister-in-law. As you all know, Tim has suffered with migraine headaches because of an eye that he lost due to a wasp sting. He's had like 3 or 4 cornea transplants that never worked, and so eventually it just became a blind eye. And they recommended taking it out, but he didn't want to because at that time in Peru it was illegal to drive with a glass eye. So since he's in missionary work, he needed to get to different places all over the place and needed to drive. So he chose to keep that eye, but the residuals of that was huge migraines that would put him in bed for days and days at a time. So they even moved down to lower elevations just for the sake of the migraine headaches relief. Well, a couple months ago, he got an infection behind that eye and he didn't have a choice, they had to come out. So they took it out, and he's still kind of laid up but moving around, but he also found out that now in Peru, as long as you have a prosthetic, you can still drive. So he's just going to continue driving with sunglasses until his prosthetic gets done, so he can get to the ministry places he has to be at. But the joy in that was he no longer has migraine headaches.
Praise God for that.
So he's been migraine headache free for a month, and he suffered with 50 years, 50 plus years. So anyhow, that's a praise there. Next on line 34 is Floyd and Alex, and they are in a part of the jungle that is infested with cartel. And they're struggling with cartel issues right now. Their little farm that they were supplementing their meager income with got taken over by coca farmers, and
He got beat up, right?
no, that was my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's brother. That ranch used to belong to my sister and my brother-in-law, but they did a swap, and so the older brother ended
Bless
up
you.
with that. Well, it's a 15,000 acre ranch with 15 to 2,000 head of cattle on it, and they got round off their ranch. And he got beat up, and they got told not to come back, and the cartel took that over. So that's not related to missions, but what I'm saying is Floyd and Alex are right smack dab in the middle of that huge infestation of cartel people. So we need to keep them in prayer. I'm gonna skip down to Heinz's, line 38. They are still doing what they do at the children's school in India, but they're restricted to only like 1 month visa permit, so they can't be there like they used to be all year long because of the political situation. They can only get visas for 1 month, and so they go down there like 3 times a year for a month. But beyond that, he's also the director, the mission field director for Right for Harvest. So he goes and does ministry with all the missionaries on Right for Harvest around the globe. So he does stop once in a while and see Henry and Nikki and help them in whatever they need to do. Plus, I think the mission board now has like 50 missionaries on that board. So he'll just go, him and Brenda will go to different places trying the whole while to make it to India, to the children's home 3 or 4 times a year, and generally during the holidays, the Christmas holidays. As you know, Henry and Nikki are still doing what they do in Southeast Asia, and still kind of trying to keep things under wraps. They finally got a chance to come back home last summer, and they were here for almost 2 months, but we only got to see them twice. Because now they're really going out and getting support from other churches, which was something I tried to encourage them to do when they first started, but, slowly but surely, they're starting to build more support, and that frees Nikki from teaching English to, doing more ministry stuff. Because that was the biggest part of their income, was, teaching English at a university in China, so. And that was their purpose for being there, as well as international teachers. Weisners have basically left the ministry in, it's not Sri Lanka, it's Malaysia, already established, and now they've gone to establish a new ministry in Cambodia. So that's where they're at now, is in Cambodia. And they're doing the same thing. They're building Christian-based churches, schools attached to a church plant that they're doing. And then once that gets established, God provides, then they will move on to a different location after that's established and it's left in good hands. Portugals are still in Spain. They're an interesting case. We were doing research. His oldest sister came to visit my sister last week, and I hadn't seen her for 55 years, 52 years. And she still looked the same. It was funny. She's just a little tiny woman that looked the same, but only 52 years older. But anyhow, as we were having dinner and researching it, Spain is, in totality, 1.2% Christian. That's all. That's really nothing, and that's in totality. So it's Baptists, Pentecostals, Methodists, Catholics, everything they consider Christians, including Mormon and Jehovah's Witnesses. For some reason, they're included in the Christian Adventists, all those. And that's pretty sad. So they're working in a really, really tough area to reach, because Europeans seem to think that they no longer need Jesus in their life or something. I'm not sure. They're over intellectualized. Plus, the Muslim culture is like just infiltrating horribly. So they fear that the Muslim culture is going to take over Europe in a real fast second.
Do you have any idea, and you're talking about Spain primarily?
Spain, yes.
Do you have any idea whether the political climate is antagonistic, or is it just letting them do whatever they want?
The political climate is not antagonistic against Christians.
Yeah.
It's just Christians just do not, culture itself just does not buy into the Christ thing any longer. The Catholic Church is dying, and that used to be the prominent church in Europe, was the Catholic Church, and it's dying. The only country in Europe that's actually growing in Christianity, quote unquote, and I hate that word as it's used as a totality, but Italy has a new person, and they're starting to come back as far as the Catholic religion is concerned. But yeah, Europe is a hard field to work in. And sometimes it seems like he's not seeing a whole lot of value in what he's doing, but if you can get one or two couples to start coming to church and get saved, and a year or every few months, then you're actually making progress. So we need to keep them in your prayers.
Do you have their address?
Portugal's, I do not.
It might be on the, is it on the board in the hallway there?
I think it's on
Their
the card.
Card.
It
Maybe
could
they're
very well be. I don't, I I mean, their email address would be on there. Physical address, I don't know. Okay, so there's a couple of things that have happened, this year that, we won't be seeing on this current, budget, but we have a couple of things that will be additional as well. But last, December, Requats retired, and so they're no longer on the field, so we needed to redirect that, that support and find a new missionary in Africa to send to. So after doing research and getting World Venture to send me some possible candidates, we ended up taking on a single woman at the time who's local from Rockland, just out by Santa Rosa, not Santa Rosa,
Sacramento. Yeah.
And she is in Rwanda. Well, she was also in the process of getting married. So, she got married to a native, Rwandan that's also a pastor, and they now have a baby. So they got married in like February, and they just had a baby in December. So, that's the new addition that took over the spot that Requats were in. And then another thing too that I need to mention is Pastor Everardo from Cuba got invited to Mexico to revive a seminary that was on the decline. So he accepted that and packed up his family and left to Mexico to try to help revive this seminary. At the same time, he is starting a church plant and assistant pastoring the original church building that was there. And when things started getting tough in Cuba, we decided, because he was trying to migrate out of Cuba at that time, but just didn't have the wherewithal or the ability or the place to go. And we asked him what it would take to keep his family in ministry in Cuba, and he said, well, probably a couple $100 a month would probably keep us here semi-comfortably. And so we decided to send them $300 a month. And that started like 2 years ago. Well, when they moved to Mexico, I started thinking, we made that decision based on keeping him in ministry in his home country, where he, where the gospel is desperate and growing. And so I called him and I said, hey, listen, I want to know something, because I think the church deserves to know if we're supporting you. If you're returning or if you're going to migrate to Mexico to stay and get out of that, for lack of a better word, hellhole that you're in here in Cuba. And he said, well, the opportunity is here and I'm going to take it, so we're going to migrate. So I said, well, we need to make decisions on the money that we're supporting you with, because our initial thing was to keep ministry going in Cuba. If you're moving out, I'm not sure what we're going to decide. So we had a conversation with it. And he said, well, if you guys could continue supporting me, I would love that. If that's not what's in the Lord's plan, we'll make it work. He said, but I understand keeping ministry going in Cuba as well, since we are supporting the Bible Institute. And he left the Institute and the church there in hands of two different people, a new pastor and a person running the Bible seminary. So I said, okay, so what you suggested? He said, well, I do need some support, but if you care to split that up and still send money to the pastor that stayed there, then I wouldn't have any objection to that. I don't have the right to object to anything, really. So I brought that to the board, and we decided we were gonna split the $3,600 a year that we were sending to Everardo to stay in Cuba in half. And we're gonna send half of that to the new pastor in Cuba and still support Everardo with half of that in his new ministry in Mexico. So you'll see on your budget report, line 31 is Orelvis Mendez, and that's the new pastor in Cuba. So we are going to support that ministry with $1,800 a year. And Everardo will be at, and he's in line 36. He's going down from 36 to 1,800 a year. Now, all these seminaries that we're supporting, and they are a huge blessing, believe me, are still going to be supported by us at the tune of $125 a week, as long as God supplies, a month, as long as God supplies. And then, last but not least, we still have Samaritan's Purse in our column, and we're going to continue supporting that with like $600 on the year. So, having said that, is there any questions that you might have?
David, just, I see we're taking off $1,000 for temp opportunity managed missions. What was that?
It was, if someone's traveling to a ministry place, you know, overseas or whatever, we could have a little bit of money there to take and, you know, find an opportunity to bless a ministry or a church or a pastor or whatever that.
Which you've done for Cuba.
Which I have done for Cuba and for Peru. When I went to Peru 2 years ago, the church gave me $750 to find the right place to invest. And so I found several different areas of need and invested in those different areas. In Cuba, I just basically took what I had and helped pastors, and
We bought a keyboard.
we bought a keyboard.
And a generator, didn't we?
We bought a generator. We've done all kinds of things. The keyboard was for Peru, the generator was for Cuba, and it stayed there. Oh, by the way, also, we put $3,500 towards the house that Everardo bought for them to live in. He just passed that house right on to the next pastor. So that house is still in ministry.
And then,
So our investment.
the other thing is, the deacons took up an offering to send to Antoinette and Musor for the baby,
Yes,
but that was not on the budget.
it was not. And we still haven't sent that yet because someone was telling me that they still had more money to come. But I did send Antoinette and Musor a letter, and I will forward that to you because I got a response from them as well. So
Okay, is that it?
unless somebody has other questions,
How about an update on Agua Viva? I haven't heard about that ministry.
you know what? Scott would have to be the person to ask about that because I haven't heard anything either. We used to get mailings from them, but we haven't in a long time, so.
I talked to my friend Danny. He goes down about 3 times a year and takes a crew of guys like you from the States, mostly from Orange County, and they're continually upgrading older buildings. Their seminary is now completely finished building-wise, and they have, I think, 2 classes a year of native Mexicans who go through there to the tune of about 35 or 40 men and women, sometimes husband and wives, sometimes single women who go through the seminary. So there's usually 2 classes of a total of 70 to 80 people who go through. But I haven't heard anything since August of what they're doing. They do have a new director, and he and his wife, I know his wife really well from when I used to go down there, but they're doing well.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay, another thing that I,
Hey, David.
failed to mention.
Margaret's got a question.
Yes,
Can you show a graph about how Europe went from a Christian, continent over to 1%? That's almost nothing.
yeah, it is.
Can you show how that on a graph translates?
We can do that later.
Not another day, yeah, we'd have to research it in order to get the right information, but,
I mean, just generally, just
Yeah.
very sketchy.
it probably just happened gradually since the sixties, really. It started just kind of like,
Mostly there.
yeah, throughout Europe.
And then David, I do want to get Chris. I mean,
Okay.
Mike.
Well, I wanted to add one more thing. We did have Marco and Brianna on that, last year, but they came to the States and we were praying for them to come so he could finish his education, he could get his master's, and, so when they got here to go to, the Bible Institute, in order for him to get his master's in divinity, then they had to step away from the mission board, so we're no longer supporting them. And what we did was we took their support and put it into the Bible seminary in Peru for a period of time. But that's one of the places where we decreased our budget, was we no longer send that money that was allocated to them back to the seminary. We just kind of eliminated that in order to start fitting in budget.
Okay,
Right.
Here's Micah.
Okay.
Great job.
Thank you, David. I have a hand up. And
Let me have him on there.
keep one for me. There you go.
That's why.
All right. And before, I have a commission from Craig to do that. Okay.
Was that bothering you, Craig?
That's good.
It was bothering me,
That's what I said, was it bothering you?
but I didn't want to interrupt.
All right, so this is the annual report on the worship team. It's largely like last year's, if you remember last year's. We select and lead Sunday morning music. We practice together weekly, and not as much as I would like us to, but you know, we're all living crazy lives, kind of. We operate all the technology that allows us to have the sound heard, both here and over the stream, the video seen. And we try to approach these tasks with an attitude of prayer and worship, rather than performance, which is at the bottom, but is actually the most important bit. We have quite a number of people that have helped on the worship team this year. Mostly folks who have helped over the last couple of years, but newly we had Christopher Bagley helped a lot on the projector. Many weeks this year he was doing that. He's now got a job in Southern California, and I don't think he'll be able to help us much with that this year, but we'll see. And also Dulce Morales joined us singing for a little while. I hope we see more of her later. Let me see, I'm just kind of skimming through this and then come back for questions rather than just read this line by line. We changed our presentation software. The big win of that, going from ProPresenter to Worship Tools Presenter, is that we can set up the slides in the service from anywhere rather than having to be in the booth. And so Jennifer was working on putting in the songs this morning from home. And so that's a big advantage for us. And that also, that was a good change. So spending money, we spent less money this year out of the worship budget. We have our regular annual music licensing through CCLI. That totals $439. That actually is in 3 buckets, which I haven't broken out. There's, we have to pay a copyright license in order to be able to print out lyrics or display lyrics week to week, and that's about $200. We need another license to be able to broadcast recordings of these other people's copyrighted songs on the internet. So because we're streaming our worship service, that's about $200. it's probably less than that, that's about $100. And then CCLI offers a really useful service that gives us access to chord sheets and music and lyrics for a huge library of songs, and access to that library costs about $150. And that's basically how that 440 breaks down. We had Don Townley come and tune our piano, and other than that, it's just a matter of maintenance supplies like buying batteries and every once in a while a new cable. So in total, we spent $821 out of the worship budget this last year. I would like to, as every year, I think I've done this report for 4 years now, and I always say this year, I'm beginning to think that I need to, about weekly practices, I always say this year, I'm beginning to think that I need to adopt the Jewish tradition at Passover and say, maybe next year. But we're gonna try again. What always happens is we get started and we get in a groove right before summer. And then the church becomes hot. And people go on vacation and we never quite get it started again afterward. We need more help with people operating the technology. Tommy does lots of weeks on the projector, and especially with Christopher getting his job down in Pacific Palisades, that's probably going to be a greater load on Tommy. Jennifer does it sometimes. Tim Roberts is regularly operating our sound. Jennifer fills in when he can't, but basically it's Teresa fills in sometimes, but we don't have a really large rotation. So if anybody wants to help out and get into that rotation and either run the projector or the sound, that would be really helpful to us. And of course, we're always open for people who feel the Lord leading them to join us in music or who want to share special music. Fun part of the report, which I definitely will not read, but I think for me this is the fun part of the report, is going back, looking at what did we sing in 2025. It's changed a fair amount. I didn't take the time to make a comparison, but this doesn't look a lot like the prior year, where lots of songs have moved up and down and around. And we have a pretty large list of songs, considering that we only sing 50 times, 52 times a year. We're singing 150 different songs. That's a lot that this group is pretty familiar with, and that's fun.
Well, if we do the math, if we're singing 52 times, 5 songs usually on average.
Yep.
That's 250, 260 songs we're singing.
Yeah.
To spread it out that much, we still have a group of them that are pretty prevalent, those 6 times a year. We do have some favorites.
We definitely do. We definitely do. So about half of the songs we sing only on one Sunday a year. And some of those are, well, I also cheated a little bit. But somehow this year we sang several of our Christmas songs several times, so I pulled them off the list.
Yes.
But usually it's Christmas songs we sing once a year, and Easter songs, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and then a mixture of others. But our favorites this last year were Cornerstone and Good and Gracious King. And coming in as close seconds, Build My Life, Holy Spirit, Good Good Father, and Gratitude. So there we go. Are there any questions about the worship ministry or the report or anything like that? Hearing none.
I particularly value what that group of people do for this church.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, so Chris has a ministry opportunity that he's going to be able to take up. And although he's not on the agenda, I've asked him to take the last few minutes and tell us about that.
So last weekend, let me back up a second. For a couple of years, I've been helping a church in Anderson called the Journey Church secure pastor and go through a process of becoming a Foursquare body of believers with a Foursquare license manager. The licensing process for Foursquare is pretty in depth, and it takes some time depending on the individual. Well, the individual fell into some personal difficulties, and it was required to immediately step away from ministry altogether. And so the difficulties that Journey Church has found themselves in, while I've been working with them for a length of time, I was approached to help them in a transitionary process for a couple of months, actually a total of 4 months. And the way in which that will look is that for 3 weeks or so, a month through the month of May, I'll be attending and helping the Journey Church to recover its, administer to them, helping them to stabilize, and also help in the selection process of another pastor to be able to move through this next season. And then Sheena and I will be coming back for 1 week to Bridgeway to remain connected here. We've kind of established a schedule. One of the key things that we want to make sure we're here for, Easter and other times for us to be able to just be part of the family here. So that's going to go through the month of May, and then after May, I think the last week of May, we'll be back full time to Bridgeway.
So, will you personally be able to attend deacon meetings?
Yes, so I should be able to attend those wherever there'll be conflicts of schedule. I'll let you know as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Because I don't believe that I'll be spending as much time with their board in selection process, but there may be times where it may be necessary, and so.
Is there denominational leadership looking for candidates, or are you having to do that?
No, so I am not having to do that. So the way in which Foursquare operates is Foursquare owns the property and assigns a minister to the Foursquare. So it's not a selection process that goes on through a committee. The candidates are sent from Foursquare, and then they are interviewed by the membership. And so it works similarly, but it's not like a traditional church pastoring selection process that we would see. And the only reasons that I would be involved in any kind of a decision-making processes for Journey is because I would be the representative of Foursquare with them. So that would be anything with the property, anything to do with, the future of the church, if the church wanted to decide to disband or move out or continue forward. I would be engaged in those conversations, but in no other way.
How large a church is it, Chris?
It's a small church. It's probably roughly about 16 members, I think is what I was told, 25 attending. It's dwindled quite substantially in the last year. So it's definitely hurting there.
Chris, are there specific prayer requests that we can pray for them and for you during this time?
Yes, that's a great question. The major pieces are for wisdom for the leadership, to understand what next steps they need to take, that God would reveal the specifics of this season, like what they should be focusing on. For Sheena and I, how to minister to broken families that are going through some difficulties, losing their pastor and having some difficult conversations internally. Those are our two primary prayer requests right now. And then for Sheena and I, specifically, how to reorder some of our own personal schedules, because this is a pretty big undertaking. Colleen.
You'll keep us apprised of things that are going on in your guys' lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, yep. And maintain connections, absolutely, yep. David.
Chris, I may have misunderstood, but I think what you said is in the month of May you're gonna be doing this, or are you, is
So
that
that's a
what you're
great question.
going
So it's
for?
actually, regrettably, it's actually gonna start the week that we're doing our congregational,
Starts next Sunday.
starts next Sunday.
Oh, I
So
see.
starting next Sunday through the month of May.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so it's happening pretty quickly. All of this really took place pretty quickly, and they don't have any sort of resources internally to be able to substantiate don't move forward right now. So they're completely locked without a lot of resources.
Where do they hold their services?
It's on Silver Avenue in Anderson. And so you turn off north and then Silver, that's the closest cross the streets there. It's pretty close to downtown Anderson.
Does that property belong to, Foursquare for quite a while now?
It
or-
does, yeah. So used to, Rob Schaefer was the pastor there for a number of years when my dad was alive. And then, and we were pretty close with them, and then he moved. And since then, it had remained unoccupied. 4 years, 3.5 years ago, Journey Church moved into that building, and they're not a Foursquare body, but they've been renting and leasing and moving towards becoming a Foursquare church. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your prayers for us in this, and then, of course, as always, my phone and email always available if there's questions or things, and we'll make sure we keep everyone up to speed with Sheena and I, especially with treatments and as things are developing in there, making sure everybody keeps.
What are
up to speed.
their worship service hours?
Starts at 10:30, and it goes to about noon.
What about Tasha and Tim? Samuel?
Tasha, Samuel, and Sheena will be attending with me, and then we'll be coming back to church on one Sunday a month for those months.
Okay. All right. Deacons, let's come up and pray for Chris, and then I'll close the service. Close the AV. Yeah, anybody can come out, yes? So Father, here's the chance to do what churches do, to minister to another body through a man who has the heart to do that. So I pray that you give Chris and Sheena the opportunity to minister throughout that body. Thank you that Tasha and Samuel will be able to be there and see their father and mother doing that. Give them grace, keep them safe as they travel back and forth. Give us reminders to continue prayer during the week and on Sundays particularly. Watch over us as we miss Chris and Sheena, Tasha and Samuel. But let this be something that ministers to that body, that brings glory to you, Father. All of this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys. Sometimes, but not all the time.
With Sheena and Tasha and Sam on the back.
Deacons, let's go on.
See, they do that in Oriental countries, where they'll have 3 or 4 people in the
Yeah,
order.
thank you very much.
Let me shut this off. Are there gonna be, budget, papers on the desk out there so that parishioners